Okay, welcome Dr. Khadija Owusu to my LinkedIn Live today, the LinkedIn for Thought Leaders show. I'm really excited to have you on the show. I met you on LinkedIn. I don't even remember how we connected, and unfortunately, LinkedIn has now removed that information when you go to someone's contact
Right.
information on their profile. You could see when they connected, right? So I don't even have that context anymore because LinkedIn removed that. If LinkedIn's listening, hopefully they'll bring that back because I used to find that really helpful. And I apologize for all the lights in my eyes, but it's Christmas, so this you can think of the twinkling lights as being very Christmassy. So without further ado, I'd like for Dr. Khadija to introduce herself because she has like so much amazing experience, and I would love for you to tell people what you do, and then we'll go into the questions. And if you're joining us live, or even if you join us later, let us know in the comments where you're calling in from and what you do, and let's also use this as an opportunity to network. So go ahead, Dr. Khadija.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for having me on your show. But before I introduce myself, I think I know we connected not that long ago, but it was because I tuned into your audio, LinkedIn audio show.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
You remember?
um,
Yes, it was the one about finding your voice on
yes,
LinkedIn,
yes,
right?
yes,
Good memory. Okay. Okay.
yes. But yes, a bit about myself. My name is Dr. Khadija Owusu. I am an award-winning doctor, international speaker, as well as social entrepreneur. I wear a few other hats, but that is me in a nutshell.
That I know you've done a lot more, but hopefully it will come out in the interview because I read your profile and I've also shared in the bio, and I know you were interviewed, or you interviewed Michelle Obama. You were on the BBC. You've been in the LinkedIn Creator Program. You do a lot to create diversity, equity, and inclusion, right?
Yeah,
For ethnic minorities in the medical profession,
yeah.
which is, oh, and that's why the LinkedIn profile is so powerful, because you can really learn about someone through their profile, through their content. I just saw you on the LinkedIn for Creators live, I think was
Mhm.
week,
Last week, yeah.
which is very impressive. So yeah, so you can really get to know a person, and the person, as our topic is about finding your voice and power of showcasing it on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's such a powerful platform to use your voice and your power, and spread your message, and you can do it all for free. Very quickly about me, my name is Naina Kaputi. I'm the host of the LinkedIn for Thought Leader show, and I work with women professionals and businesses to help them build, showcase, and elevate their thought leadership on LinkedIn. And I'm also the founder of the Expat Woman. As you can guess from my accent, I'm originally from India, and I moved to the US actually 20 years ago in August, I think, in August. And yeah, so I'm also, and I think Dr. Khadija is also an ex. Did you move to the UK from somewhere else, or were you
Nice.
born?
I'm born and raised in the UK. My parents came from Ghana.
Okay, because I knew there was some international connection in one of the jobs you do, or one of the
Mhm.
organizations. I think I saw Ghana on your profile. All right, so my question for you, my first question would be that what inspired you to get onto LinkedIn? Like, why did you decide you wanted to use it, and how did it come about? Was it organic or was it strategic? And when did you get on this platform?
Right. Um, you're actually really casting my mind back to think of the exact moment where I joined LinkedIn. I actually have no recollection at all. I think it was definitely organic as opposed to strategic. It was a platform that I joined, I think, whilst I was in medical school, a time where you wouldn't necessarily see many young people utilizing the platform. But I thought, okay, this might be a platform where I might be able to reach out to individuals who are particularly who I'm particularly interested in, and maybe seeking some mentorship. At the time, I had no thoughts of being a creator on the platform, or sort of sharing my voice, I would say.
That's cool. And do you know the date when you joined LinkedIn? Do you know
Oh
that?
no.
Okay, so I'm going to share that in the comments after the post. I recently launched my LinkedIn YouTube channel, and one of my first videos is how can you find the date when you joined, because it's just interesting, right, to see
Yeah.
how you have progressed. As you said, you joined for a different reason. You never thought you'd be a creator. And I joined LinkedIn in, again, another anniversary. I joined LinkedIn on November 30th, 2007. And
Wow.
I used to work for an organization that worked with immigrant professionals. And, a lot of us came to the US and we had barely any professional network. I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in the US, a lot of focus is on who you know, and for finding a job, for hosting
Mm,
events. And when you move to a new country, you most of your connections are in the country of origin, or you might have people from your country who now live in the country you moved to. So this so one of the students in this program that we ran for immigrant professionals was like, have you heard of this new platform LinkedIn? And he at that time had 500 connections, and we were like, wow, how did you get 500 connections? So that's how so I joined LinkedIn. But I never thought one day I'd be doing LinkedIn lives and meeting amazing people like you, interviewing them, and creating content. I never thought of myself as a writer. So sharing my voice, right? I was like pretty shy about being public with what I did. So so it's very powerful. So then, and I know you got into the LinkedIn creator program, and I know a lot of people applied for it in the UK, because I am connected with quite a few people who are creators in the UK. So what made you decide to get onto the LinkedIn creator program, and what do you think you did that got you selected out of the many amazing content creators out there?
yeah. So um, the creator program actually really came by as a surprise. I know that they also did a cohort in the US and Brazil and India as well. So for the first time, they decided to come to the UK and introduce the program here. And I believe earlier this year, that's when they started advertising that, oh, why not propose a particular idea or project that you would like to share and see if you can sort of work with LinkedIn in order to put your project or bring it to life, essentially. So how did I first come about it? So my LinkedIn creator manager actually introduced me to the program, and she thought, wow, why not give this a shot? So I thought, oh, okay. And I was also seeing a lot of advertising. So the marketing that they did, I must say, for LinkedIn, they did quite well with that, because it was quite, everywhere I would go, I would see, the adverts, not even just on LinkedIn. So I applied. Even the application, it took a while for me. I usually take my time with applications, to be honest. But you have to propose an idea. The program is for 66 weeks. Propose an idea in which your content will be surrounded around. And for me, that was demystifying LinkedIn for the LinkedIn millennials, for the LinkedIn Gen Z, knowing how the kind of thoughts that I initially had when I joined LinkedIn initially. Some young people, if not majority, still have those beliefs right now, and is even more so prevalent amongst the medical professionals. And so I wanted to break that stigma, break that barrier, whereby you can come to LinkedIn as you are. You don't have to be a successful CEO. You don't have to be the wealthiest. Come as you are, with the knowledge that you have, the experience that you've gained so far, and take people along with you on that journey. So that is essentially the project that I proposed. And we found out that we got selected. Even then, I submitted the application thinking, yeah, I'm not going to get selected. So when I received the email, I was really shocked. So I was really grateful. But then, it's like, okay, well, now the hard work begins. You've got to create, a total of a content worth for 6 weeks,
Right.
which can be quite hard, especially if you are somebody that doesn't create content
Right.
that frequently on the go with that much consistency. But honestly, it was an amazing time that we had. It flew by so quickly. I think we ended about 2-3 weeks ago. You meet so many amazing, phenomenal creators as well on the program, collaborating with each other, um, having mentors and interesting sessions on different sort of tech that you can use, including StreamYard for LinkedIn. So, yeah, it was great.
That's fantastic. And you said you had to create content for 6 weeks. So that means, do you have to create content every day or like a few times a week?
So a few times a week
Okay.
is the requirement,
Okay.
and what you have the opportunity to utilize different formats that LinkedIn has. So whether using images, posts, carousels, polls, whatever you want.
And that has to be around what you applied for, right? Because you said you were going to do it for medical professionals, right? And for young women or young people, right? That was
Right.
your focus. Yeah. Which is actually last month I did a LinkedIn live on my LinkedIn Thought Leader show with a woman from India who was on
Mhm.
the LinkedIn Creator Program's first Indian accelerator program. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's interesting to hear different perspectives. And she works for Quora, and so again, different professional background. Someone just said they're tuning in from San Diego. I don't see the name. That's a weird thing about when you look at it in StreamYard. But thank you, whoever you are. Maybe you can introduce yourself with your name so we know who it is.
Mhm.
So my other question for you was, like, because this topic is around owning your voice and power on LinkedIn, right? And what I've noticed is that there are there's people of all professions now on LinkedIn. It's not just for job seekers or as I love to say, dudes in suits. It's like everybody, anyone who wants to be out there either to build connections or share their content or their expertise or thought leadership. But I've seen in the medical profession, there are not too many. There might be doctors who have their
Mhm.
profiles, but they're really not leveraging the platform. So, what would you say to them, like medical professionals? How can they use their voice and power on LinkedIn, and why should they be on LinkedIn?
Sure. I think with medics, there is that sort of long-standing notion of, yeah, you go to medical school, you graduate, your job is pretty much available there. You just continue practicing, training, and eventually you become a consultant or sort of at the top. And so there is that sort of no need to really utilize social media, or let's say LinkedIn in this case. But the medical landscape, especially within healthcare in general, things are changing a lot more now over the past few years, even more so, especially since the pandemic.
Mhm.
We are utilizing media a lot more, sharing our opinion, sharing research. It is how we communicate with our patients, how we sort of distribute health information that pertains to people's lives. So, aside from the health educational aspect, but also we're slowly moving into perhaps a phase whereby some health professionals are building their own personal professional brand,
Mhm.
and branching outside from the day-to-day hospital work. And I think we need to sort of break that stigma of, yes, you can be a doctor, but also you can still have that professional brand outside of that hospital environment. Um, so yeah, that's why I really encourage people to utilize LinkedIn, and even more so with regards to the different fields that are now popping up: health tech, health equity, all of these different roles, even within global health as well. All of these different roles, which a lot of us are not yet quite sure how to navigate or put a step into. LinkedIn can be useful for finding individuals, key individuals who are in those roles,
Mhm.
reaching out, finding those mentors, and getting the support you need.
That's fantastic. I love your response. And one is with finding connections, because LinkedIn, there are no gatekeepers, right? You could get to the CEO of a health tech
Mm.
company, right? Otherwise, there's so many layers. Sometimes they're listed on the company website, but you don't know how to get in touch with them.
Yeah.
And you can follow their content by ringing a bell on their profile. And I also liked what you said about, people like, for me, for instance, I'm always switching the doctors I go to, I never seem to find the right one. Imagine if they were on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
building their, as you say, their personal professional brand, sharing, and again, doctors don't have to. You don't have to share things that are private and are confidential, right? But there's so much. Maybe just, oh, my doctor likes to play tennis at the weekends, or my doctor works for, volunteers at a non-profit. I mean, there are all these things, because it builds a know, like, and trust factor, right? Because you buy from people, and especially with healthcare, you're trusting someone with your life, right? With your health, and um, how much more important it is to showcase who you are and what you do, and what's really behind Dr. Khadija, whoever the doctor is, right? Did you want to add something to that?
No, you're
Okay,
right.
okay. Yeah, right. So no, and I love that you are doing so much to kind of break that, in a way, demystify, this whole LinkedIn for doctors and for the medical profession. And again, as you said, it's not just people who work in a hospital or who have clinics, but, doctors have branched into so many different uh, professions, right? And you could be working for a startup, you could have your own startup. So I love that. And then how are you, I know you shared about what you did during the 6 weeks, but like, how are you specifically sharing your voice, your power? I know you are involved in so many different organizations, right? So how are you standing out from the crowd and building awareness on the various things that you do professionally and as a volunteer in these various roles?
Yeah. Um, I think the only way to answer that question is literally just being myself. The only way in which somebody can stand out is if you are not only content but also happy and fulfilled in knowing that this is who you are and this is what you bring to the table and this is what you feel is essential to share on the platform. So utilizing your authentic voice in the content that you create. And for me, the content varies between the key areas that I'm particularly passionate about. So when it comes to EDI and representation in medicine, when it comes to global health, when it comes to um, young girls and gender equality, especially for the young girls that I look after back home in Ghana. So all of those key areas that I feel I'm passionate about is areas in which I share content on. And I know that I share that content to the best of my ability because I'm being myself and sharing my opinion and my voice essentially. So I guess, advice to anybody else. And I tend to get asked this question a lot. And my answer is always the same: just be yourself. And don't expect to have everything all together before you come to, let's say, the table or before you present yourself to LinkedIn. I know, I mean, especially in my medical career, I'm somewhat near the beginning. So I've still got years and years and years ahead of just my career ahead of me. And it's exciting knowing that, okay, I can take people in my LinkedIn community along with me on this journey because we all start from somewhere. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And I love what you again said about being authentic, right? Because I think if you really are true to yourself and you share what excites you and what lights you up, the content just flows. If you start looking at everyone, I mean, you can look at other people's posts who are in your field to be inspired, but once you
Yeah.
start being somebody who you're not and trying to ape, oh wow, this kind of post gets so many likes, it's a post of their dog, and then you start doing a post where, I mean, you love your dog, but maybe, like, I have two cats I love, but they're not really part of what I want to be known for, right? So I just love that, I think when you're authentic and true to yourself, the content will flow. And again, you don't need to create content initially. You can just comment on other
Right.
people's posts, right? It's not, it takes a while sometimes to put something out there. Right. So in terms of that, for people who are just starting off, especially in the medical profession, what are some tips you would share about, how can they get started? Because I know doctors especially, and I know you have a very busy schedule, right? So they might say, I don't even want to get on LinkedIn because I don't have the bandwidth. I don't know what to post, how to make the time. So do you have any tips to share specifically for people in the medical profession, and then of course a broader audience?
Mhm. I would say when starting out on LinkedIn, definitely be very intentional. To be honest, in general, be very intentional with the people that you want to connect with. Connect with individuals who you would like to see their content, see their opinions, or the pieces that they share online in order to give you inspiration, but also to educate yourself. Use that as I said, a source of inspiration in regards to what kind of content you would create, but also sharing your life experiences. What are some of the lessons you've learned? Have you failed and overcome a particular challenge that you've encountered, or even your successes? We know LinkedIn is typically known to be people sharing, just their successes. But I think your successes also be celebrated as well, as much as your failures. So definitely do so. And another thing that I want to highlight is don't feel pressured to always have to create. Um, Content creation can be quite hard. And I, especially being on the program, came to really understand that when you have to create and you have to make sure you're meeting particular conditions and you've kind of got a mental creative block, let's say, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to post something but I don't even know what I'm going to post. And when you have those moments, that's your sign to take a break, because if you force the content creation, it's, in my opinion, it's not as authentic as it would be. You are just creating for the sake of creating and not because you want to provide value for your audience. And so definitely take a break. And with me, how I overcame that during the program was take a step away, continue to live life, and through general conversations with people around me, that's how I then had a spark that, oh, this is something that I definitely want to write around and share as well.
And that's a great piece of advice. Don't always force yourself to write something, right? It's really hard. I agree with you, because I was initially, when I was creating content, I was like, oh, I have to create at least 4 or 5 pieces of content, and I was putting so much pressure on myself. And then you put something out there which you don't really care about, and then you don't get the engagement, and then you feel like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I posted something, I put my heart and soul into it, even though you didn't really know what to do, and then there's cricket. Right. And again, I would also add, don't worry about the vanity metrics, because the LinkedIn algorithm works in strange ways.
It's very
It does. And there's, I think at this time there's about 875 million people on LinkedIn, but only 1 to 5% are creating content and really engaging on the platform. So there are a lot of lurkers, because I'm sure this happens to you. I'm always having people say, oh, you're so active on LinkedIn, I loved what you shared. And I was like, but I never saw you commenting or sending me a DM or even liking my post. A lot of people who are not showing up. So that's another piece of advice, right? For people listening and who haven't really started engaging, just comment, or even just react to a post. And if you don't want to comment, you can even share the post to your network. And if you see a post that speaks to you and you think would speak to your audience as well. And my next question would be, now that you've gone through the creator program, like, what is your focus on LinkedIn? What is your goal? Like, you're ready, you've got all these different interests, so what do you want to see happening moving forward?
Oh, for me, literally, it's just continuing to create, but also creating in an environment that I feel no pressure whatsoever, creating whereby I provide value for my community, creating whereby I just show up authentically as myself on the platform. So, what that will look like is, of course, growing and building the community, seeing how I can get the community involved in some of the activities that I'm doing, which we've got a few sort of exciting plans over the next year, especially in regards to my charity in Ghana. So, literally just taking people along on the journey and sharing my lessons learned.
Those are such great goals to have. I'm going to take off my glasses. The twinkling in my glasses is driving myself crazy. So I'm being distracted by my own glasses. So so in terms, the other question I had was, a lot of people who work for organizations, or in your case, work for hospitals, their concern would be like, I'm posting on LinkedIn. Do I need permission from the organization, the
Mm.
hospital, or what can I post? Is there do they have a social media policy in place? So I just wanted to know what you like. Did you like in your case? What have you had to do, or do you need to do, and what should other people who are watching this say? I'm not working for myself. How do I go about creating and sharing content on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So I've heard mixed things. In my case, I haven't necessarily had to do that because I think it depends on the kind of content you want to create, to be honest, or you already create. Whether it is heavily affiliated with your line of work, especially who you work for, where you work. And, with medicine, a lot of the stipulations is around confidentiality, which is 100% true and understandable. So, in that remit, I think within healthcare, I can only speak for the UK. As long as you're making sure that you're not crossing those boundaries, it is okay, and making sure that you're not putting yourself in a compromising position whereby you will be questioned. But I know for some other individuals and some friends that I have, more so in corporate industries, they have had to seek some sort of permission from their employers because their content is related to perhaps, I don't know, getting a job in that field, or
Mhm.
a bit more sort of stricter rules in those environments.
That makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, if there are employers watching this, I think employers really need to encourage them. Maybe they should have a social media policy in place, like a handbook, so people can see what the do's and don'ts are. But I think everyone benefits. The employees build their professional brand, their personal brand. They feel confident in themselves because they're showcasing their expertise. And at the same time, it's also helping the employers, because if you're looking to work at that company or do business with that company or that organization or that hospital, as I said, when I'm looking for doctors and I see this doctor, then the hospital benefits as well, or the clinic, right? Because I want to hire them. So I think if employers see it from that perspective, again, as you say, you shouldn't be crossing the line or revealing anything too confidential. But I think that, in your case, I think, the organization you work for, the hospital you work for, is really benefiting from you putting yourself out there, because and you're doing not just sharing your day to day, but you're being a voice for the medical professionals, for young doctors, for women of color. There's so much that you are doing with your advocacy and your work on LinkedIn. I think it's really powerful and should be overlooked, right? So with that, I have my last two questions. My second to last question is, do you have like 1 to 3 tips that people who are watching this can implement so they can, show own their voice and power on LinkedIn, something that's very implementable and actionable?
Mhm.
Would love to hear what your tips on this.
Yeah, sure. My tips, I don't know if I'll stick to your three. But my tips, I would say, number one, don't be afraid. Get out of your head, or get out of the box that you've put yourself into in regards to perhaps you feel as though you don't belong um, on LinkedIn. The same way you've been able to create a profile, therefore means you have, in a way, earned your spot on LinkedIn. So remove that mindset. Then, secondly, connect, make connections intentionally, use that as a source of inspiration. Then, thirdly, if you are afraid to start creating content, engage with others by liking, by commenting. Those are good ways in order to share your opinions. And then just start, literally just start creating content on anything that you feel as though you would provide value, and emphasis on creating content that is authentic to who you are. And then another key tip is do not get bogged down by the numbers. Obviously, when you're starting, you will not see amazing numbers initially. As you grow, you will, but even as you grow, ignore it, because you can have however many thousands of likes on a post and not have one particular meaningful connection or relationship formed, as opposed to having 10 likes and you've now connected with your next business partner and are on to some amazing venture. So forget about the numbers, just go with the intention of, I want to help people.
Fantastic. And I agree, like connect intentionally, because don't just connect with everyone, because again, you want to have those, I think you can have up to 30,000 connections, right? So some people are again focused on, I want to just look like I'm this amazing super connector. So that's really powerful. Connect with intention. So you have people in your network who really value your content and will engage in it and might lead, as you say, to conversions. You know, might hire you, might want to work with you, might want to collaborate with you, might want to invite you to speak. I mean, Dr. Khadija, when you know, and now that I remember the LinkedIn audio event, and I think you left a very meaningful comment about how important, or you reposted it about sharing your voice, and that made me go check out your profile. And I'm, you know, I only do the LinkedIn live once a month. I'm very picky about who I choose. So, you know, you stood out from everyone else because your profile spoke to me, and your comment led me to your profile. And you know, again, your profile is so beautifully fleshed out because you know, again, our profiles are you know, we talk about personal brands, our digital reputation, right? So the more and authentic you are on your profile, and the more you share on your profile, the more people will want to collaborate with you or work with you. So I appreciate all those really valuable tips. And my final question is, how can people find you, connect with you? Is there anything you want to share? Is there anything coming up? Would, you know, love to have you let our audience know what the next steps are.
Yes, absolutely. So essentially, you can follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn, Dr. Khadija Owusu. You can also check me out on my website, khadijaowusu.com. And if you're interested in any sort of having me speak at any of your events or conferences, any potential collaborations or partnerships, then definitely contact me via my website, khadijaowusu.com.
Fantastic. And I will share a link to the website in the comments, because this is streaming live on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn page, on my LinkedIn YouTube channel, and in the the Global Expat Woman Facebook group, because I just want because I think the biggest issue with a lot of expat women who moved to another country, and especially women of color, is we tend to not want to showcase or show our voices and, you know, share our power. So I will share that link in all three, and hopefully people will follow you and continue to be inspired by all the amazing work you do. So I just
Thank
want
you.
to thank you so much for being on this LinkedIn live
Thank
and
you for having
making
me.
that time. And I know it's pretty late in the UK, so I'm going to let you go. And thank you to everyone who's watching this live or watching the recording. As I said, it's going to be on all these different channels. And you can also follow me, and I have a link YouTube channel. I'll share the link as well, and it also will show you, Dr. Khadija, how to find the date when you joined
Mm.
LinkedIn, which I'd love to know. All right, everyone, thank you, and have a wonderful rest of the day or evening or night or whatever time it